The day my sister-in-law slapped me across the face in front of my daughters was the day 17 years of silence ended, and I promise you, the silence had been a lot more expensive than she ever knew. Welcome to Dad's Raw Revenge. Get settled, and keep this in mind, the people in this story had every chance to do right. They just chose otherwise. Drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from. Trust me, you're gonna love it here. But let me back up, because if I start at the slap, you'll miss everything that made it matter. My name is Kyle Weber. I'm 49 years old. I live in the Steiner Ranch neighborhood, northwest Austin. I own an IT compliance firm on Research Boulevard. We've got 11 full-time employees, 3 major corporate contracts, and a reputation that took me 15 years to build from nothing. Absolute nothing. I coach my youngest daughter's soccer team on Saturday mornings. My life is, by any honest measure, a good one. And at the center of all of it is Alana. Alana Weber, 43, sharp as a tack, laughs with her whole body, makes the best beef brisket tacos you've ever put in your mouth. We've been married 17 years. And I mean married, not coexisting, not tolerating each other. Actually, genuinely, embarrassingly in love. The kind of love that makes our friends roll their eyes when we walk into a room. Then there are my girls. Alexa is 12. She's serious and precise and already corrects my grammar. Keisha is 9. She is pure chaos wrapped in pigtails, and she is the funniest human being I have ever met. I adopted both of them, Alana and I together, after we spent the first 5 years of our marriage trying everything else. Alana has a condition that made pregnancy impossible. We grieved that quietly. Then we made a decision. We chose our daughters on purpose. Every single day. I choose them on purpose. I need you to understand that before we get to anything else. Now, Alice Hamilton. Alice is Alana's older sister, 46 years old, lives over in the Avery Ranch area, and she's got 3 boys who keep her hands full. The older 2, Jackson and Marcus, are out of high school, but Tom is the youngest at 13. Alice is married to a guy named Ray. For a long time, Ray was the golden boy of the family, doing incredibly well in commercial real estate, driving the flashy cars, and treating everyone like he was the smartest guy in the room. But about 3 years ago, Ray got hit with a massive compliance issue at his firm, lost his job, and the industry quietly locked him out. Since then, he's been trying to hustle on independent commissions, but things haven't been the same. He's got the anxious energy of someone who peaked years ago and is drowning trying to hide it. And Alice, God bless her, has never liked me. Not from the beginning. When I met Alana, I was 32 and broke in the specific way that's embarrassing. Not homeless broke, but asking your girlfriend to cover the check at dinner broke. Starting a business on credit cards and stubbornness. Alana was doing fine. She had a steady salary, a decent apartment, and a family that had decided, before I ever opened my mouth, that I wasn't good enough for her. Alice led that committee. She never said it outright. People like Alice never do. It was in the way she looked at me across dinner tables, the way she talked to Alana like I wasn't in the room, the polite questions that were actually weapons. So, Kyle, is the business still struggling? Said with this smile that made you feel like you were supposed to thank her for asking. I made a decision back then that I've held to ever since. I was not going to fight Alice. I was not going to give her the satisfaction of a scene. I loved Alana too much to make her choose between peace and her husband's pride. So I stepped back. Way back. At family gatherings. I was pleasant. I was present. I stayed out of Alice's orbit and let Alana manage her own family. And it worked. Mostly. What Alice never knew, what she never bothered to find out because she'd already decided I was nobody, was that the business eventually did very well. Better than well. While she was still treating me like a charity case Alana had dragged home, I was signing contracts that would have made her eyes water. When Alice and Ray hit financial trouble a few years back, mortgage issues, Tom's private school tuition getting out of hand, they went to Alana. Of course they did. And Alana came to me. Baby, I know it's a lot to ask. Just handle it, I told her. Take it from our account, give it to them, and let's keep the peace. I know how that sounds, and I knew how it looked. Alana handed Alice money from a joint account that Alice assumed was mostly Alana's. I let her think that. It was easier than the conversation we'd have to have otherwise. So Alice kept believing that her little sister was her financial lifeline, and kept believing that Alana's husband was just some quiet guy who tagged along. That arrangement went on longer than I care to admit. Mortgage shortfalls, tuition payments, a couple of emergencies that Ray would call Alana about directly. Never me, never Kyle. Because in Alice's version of the world, I was furniture. Expensive furniture, as it turns out, but still furniture. The Sunday everything cracked open started like every other Sunday in June in Austin, loud and hot before 10 a.m. The barbecue was at Alana and Alice's mom's place over in Round Rock. She's got a big older home with a massive backyard, a great covered patio, and it was a full house, a good crowd of extended family, aunts, uncles, and longtime family friends. The smell of brisket and jalapeno sausage was coming off the pit before we even got out of the truck. Somebody had a Bluetooth speaker going. Kids were everywhere. I was in a good mood. Genuinely, I'd closed a solid contract the week before. The girls had been great all morning, and Alana was wearing this yellow sundress that made me feel like I was 32 again, minus the broke part. I had zero reason to expect anything other than a normal Sunday. I grabbed a plate of sausage links and made my way toward the back, where a few of the guys were arguing about whether the Cowboys had any shot this season. I had opinions. I shared them. Life was good. I didn't even notice Alice watching me from across the yard. I noticed Keisha first. She came running at me from the side of the house, and I knew immediately, before she even reached me, that something was wrong. 9-year-old girls running at their dads at barbecues are either showing you something exciting or something is very wrong. The way Keisha's face looked, it wasn't exciting. I set my plate down and caught her. Hey, what's wrong? What happened? She was crying, not the dramatic kind. The quiet kind that kids do when they're genuinely hurt and trying to hold it together. That kind is worse. It took me a minute to get it out of her. Then she told me what Tom had said, standing right in front of Alexa and 2 of their cousins. Clear as day. You're just charity cases. My mom said your real parents didn't want you. You don't even belong in this family. I felt something shift in my chest. I want to be precise about what I felt, because it wasn't just anger. It was something colder and quieter than anger. It was the feeling of a man who has absorbed 1,000 small insults for 17 years, and is now watching those insults land on his 9-year-old daughter's face. I kissed Keisha's forehead. I told her to stay with her mom. Then I walked over to where Tom was standing with a couple of other kids near the fence. I didn't yell. I didn't grab him. I put one arm gently around Keisha, who had followed me despite what I'd said, and placed a calm hand on Tom's shoulder so he'd look at me instead of his friends. Hey, I said, look at me. He looked up. These girls carry my name. They belong here just like everyone else. Don't you ever say that again. That was it. That was all I said. I don't know what Alice saw from across that yard. I don't know what version of events played out in her head in the 3 seconds between seeing me and reaching us. But what happened next took the entire backyard from loud to silent in less than 2 seconds. She grabbed Tom away from me so hard he stumbled. Then she turned and slapped me, open palm, hard enough that I heard it before I felt it. The yard went dead quiet. Don't you dare touch my son, you pathetic loser. Her voice was shaking, not with fear, with fury. You're not even a real father anyway. You just adopted them because you couldn't give my sister a real family. I touched my cheek. Before I could even process the sting, Alana was moving. She didn't freeze. She rushed right into the space between us, her face pale with pure shock and rage, pushing herself past her sister. Alice, what is wrong with you? Alana shouted, her voice trembling but fierce. What did you just do that for? In front of my children? Alice didn't even look at her. She kept her wild eyes locked on me. I took a slow breath, gently pulled Alana back behind my shoulder, and looked at Alice. I am giving you exactly 10 seconds to get out of my sight, I said, my voice dead calm, before I call the cops and have them take you off your mother's property in handcuffs. That's when Ray materialized with his beer, stepping quickly into the middle to shield Alice, his chest puffed out. Whoa, Kyle. Let's not do anything stupid here, man. Relax, Ray said, pointing a finger at me. She's just a protective mother. You put your hands on our kid first. Don't be a drama queen bringing cops into a family matter. Just drop it. I looked at Ray for a long moment. The music was still playing from the speaker. Somewhere, a kid laughed at something on the other side of the yard, not knowing what had just happened over here. I smiled. Since you brought it up, I said quietly, let's talk about what a real father does. I turned to my daughters. Girls, get your things. Alana was already moving toward me. And I want you to stay right here. Because what happened in the 2 weeks after we walked off that property? That's when everything Alice Hamilton thought she knew about her life started coming apart. Some people don't realize they've been living on borrowed grace until the grace stops, and by then, the bill is already due. We pulled out of that round rock driveway in complete silence. Not the uncomfortable kind. Not the kind where two people are fighting and nobody wants to go first. This was the silence of a family that had just been hit by something and needed a minute to breathe before they figured out what to do next. Alexa was in the back seat staring out the window. Keisha had her head on her sister's shoulder with her eyes closed. Alana was in the passenger seat with her hands folded in her lap, very still, in the way she gets when she's feeling something too big to talk about yet. I kept both hands on the wheel. Drove south on 183, back toward Steiner Ranch. The Austin skyline flickered in the distance like it always does on a clear June evening, purple and gold, and completely indifferent to the fact that my face was still stinging. I didn't say anything about what I was going to do. Not yet. We got home. I grilled the girls some chicken fajitas, because life continues, and 9 and 12-year-olds still need to eat regardless of what their aunt did at a barbecue. We sat at the kitchen table, the four of us. Keisha ate like nothing happened because she was 9, and chicken fajitas are chicken fajitas. Alexa was quiet, which meant she was processing. That's what Alexa does. After they were in bed, Alana found me in the kitchen. She leaned against the counter and looked at me with those eyes that have always been able to read me like a lease agreement. You okay? She asked. I'm fine. Kyle, Alana, I looked at her. I'm fine. I promise. She was quiet for a second. Then, I am so sorry. I should have said more. You didn't do anything wrong. I froze. I know. It's okay. It's not okay. Her voice cracked just slightly on that last word. She said that in front of our daughters, Kyle. She called you. She said you weren't a real. She stopped herself. I walked over and held her for a minute. Just held her. Then I went to my home office, opened my laptop, and pulled up the bank portal. I want to be clear about something. What I did next wasn't rage. It wasn't petty. It wasn't me throwing a tantrum because my feelings got hurt at a cookout. It was a decision made by a man who had just watched his 9-year-old daughter cry because of words that came directly from his sister-in-law's mouth. Words that Tom didn't invent. Words he heard at home. I pulled up every recurring transfer connected to Alice and Ray's accounts. The monthly mortgage assistance. The tuition installments for Tom's private school over in Cedar Park. The occasional emergency transfers that had stopped feeling like emergencies about 2 years ago. I canceled every single one. All of them. Gone. I closed the laptop, went to bed, and slept better than I had in months. The first week was quiet on their end. No calls. No texts. Nothing. I figured Alice was too proud to reach out and too angry to think straight. Ray was probably telling her it would all blow over, that Kyle would calm down, that Alana would smooth it out like she always did. They probably poured themselves drinks and decided to wait it out. I went to work. I coached Keisha's Saturday soccer practice at the fields over on Quinlan Park Road. I took Alexa to book people downtown because she wanted a specific novel she'd been hunting for 3 weeks. Sunday I smoked a brisket in the backyard for 5 hours and didn't think about Alice Hamilton once. Not once. It was the second week when the dominoes started falling. I know this because Alana started getting texts. Then calls. Then the calls got longer, and I could tell by the way Alana's jaw tightened during them that Alice's tone was shifting from cold to something more frantic. I didn't ask for details. Alana would tell me when she was ready. On a Tuesday, about 2 weeks after the barbecue, Alana came home from meeting a friend for lunch over on South Congress, and she had a look on her face I hadn't seen in a very long time. Not sad, not angry. Done. Alice was there, she said, setting her keys on the counter. I looked up from my laptop. At the restaurant? She showed up. Didn't call ahead. Just showed up and sat down across from me. I waited. She cornered me. Kyle. Alana pulled out a bar stool and sat down slowly, like she was setting something heavy on the floor. She went on for 10 minutes. About you. About how you're being childish. About how you're punishing her whole family because your pride got bruised over she called it, a little family argument. A little family argument. The woman assaulted me in front of 30 people and half a dozen children, and it was a little family argument. She said her mortgage payment is late, Alana continued. The school sent Tom's family a final notice on tuition, and apparently Ray told her, it's your fault, that you set them up to fail. I said nothing. Alana looked at me. She asked me why I was letting my deadbeat husband ruin their lives. The kitchen was very quiet. What did you say? I asked. Alana was still for a moment, and I watched something move across my wife's face. Something I can only describe as 17 years of patience reaching its absolute limit. Like a dam that had held everything it was designed to hold, and then held some more, and was now, finally, quietly, letting go. I told her the truth, Alana said. I straightened slightly. Alana, all of it, Kyle. Her eyes were steady. No tears. Just clarity. She needed to hear it. I'm done protecting her from it. We moved out to the back porch later that evening, 2 glasses of sweet tea sitting untouched between us. I wasn't at that cafe on South Congress, but as the crickets started up, Alana walked me through every single word she handed to her sister. When Alice finished her performance at the cafe table, the sighing, the guilt-tripping, the dramatic pauses, the don't you care about your own family. Alana looked at her sister across that cafe table and said, it was never my money, Alice. Alice blinked. What? Every dollar, every single dollar that kept your lights on and paid Tom's tuition and covered your mortgage. That was Kyle's money, not mine. His. He told me to let you think it was me. He didn't want the drama. He was protecting me from having to deal with your reaction to knowing the truth. Silence. The husband you called a loser at a backyard barbecue in front of his children has been quietly funding your life for years. While you were looking down at him. While you were letting your son repeat whatever you say about him at home into our daughters' faces. That was him. Paying for it. Alice apparently opened her mouth. Alana didn't let her get there. And while we're talking about real fathers, you want to go there? Really? Alana leaned forward. We adopted because I am the one who cannot have children. My body, my condition, my limitation. Kyle has spent 10 years letting this entire family quietly assume it was his problem, because he knew how you'd treat me if you knew the truth. He protected my dignity from people exactly like you, Alice. He never said a word. Not once. Not to you, not to anyone. He is twice the man your husband will ever be. When Alana got to that part of the story, sitting on our back porch, she stopped talking for a second. I didn't say anything either. I looked out at the yard where my daughters had been running around an hour ago, and I felt something I genuinely wasn't expecting. Not satisfaction, not vindication. Just the particular weight of being truly known by somebody. Of having your wife look at the people who dismissed you and say, you never saw him at all. Was she crying? I asked eventually. By the end. Alana took a sip of her tea. I didn't wait around to watch. I nodded. We sat there a while longer. The neighbor's dog barked at something down the street. Keisha had left her soccer ball in the middle of the lawn again. Normal life. Continuing, but here's what I knew that Alana didn't mention at that cafe table, because Alana didn't know it yet. The same day she had that conversation with Alice, I had made 2 phone calls. The first was to my attorney, a sharp woman named Renee, who has handled my business contracts for 8 years and has a voice that makes insurance adjusters nervous. I told her what happened at the barbecue. I told her I had 3 long-time family friends who were standing right there, completely sober, who had already agreed to provide written statements. I asked her to move forward. She didn't hesitate. I'll contact the DA's office today. The second call was to the bank. When Ray and Alice's mortgage hit a restructuring agreement 2 years ago, the lender required a co-signatory to qualify for the modified terms. Ray came to Alana. Alana came to me. I signed on because, say it with me, I loved my wife and I wanted to keep the peace. Well, peace had been officially cancelled. I called the lender holding their mortgage modification. Because Ray had lost his job 3 years ago due to a compliance issue, he had hidden his true income status from the bank during the restructure, using my stellar credit as a shield. I informed the bank's fraud and risk department that as a co-signatory, I was formally reporting a material change in the primary borrower's employment that had been concealed. I dropped a mountain of proof on their desk. The bank representative on the phone was terrifyingly quiet. Just facts, process, and timeline. They were defaulting the modification by Monday. That's all it was on my end too. Just facts and process and timeline. I hung up, went back to my desk, and finished the compliance report I'd been working on before the call. We had a client presentation Thursday morning, and I don't let personal situations bleed into professional ones. That's a discipline I developed a long time ago. Back when I was 32 and broke and everyone was watching to see if I'd fail. I didn't fail then. And I wasn't planning to start now. If you have been listening for a while, drop your thoughts in the comments, hit the like button while you're at it, and be sure you're subscribed. Here's what I want you to understand about the 2 weeks following that barbecue in Round Rock. Nothing I did was dramatic. Nothing was loud. No scenes. No confrontations. No angry texts at midnight. No showing up anywhere I wasn't supposed to be. I went to work. I came home. I helped Alexa with her homework. I watched Keisha's soccer game and yelled encouragement from the sideline like I always do. I cooked dinner 3 nights out of 7 because I genuinely enjoy cooking and Alana works hard. I was just living my life, but underneath the normal surface of things, every decision I'd made was moving the way water moves, quietly, steadily, and with absolute certainty about where it was going. Alice and Ray just didn't know it yet. That changed when Ray called. It was a Thursday evening. I was in the driveway cleaning out the truck when my phone buzzed. Number I recognized. I almost didn't answer. Then I decided why not. Ray, Kyle, a pause. The specific pause of a man who rehearsed this call and already forgot his lines. Hey look, Alice and I were thinking, maybe we should all sit down. Talk this through. Clear the air, you know. Somewhere neutral. Nice restaurant. Our treat. Our treat. I almost laughed. I literally almost laughed, standing in my driveway on a Thursday evening in Austin, Texas. Sure, Ray, I said. Let's sit down. Another pause. He sounded relieved, which told me everything I needed to know about what he thought this meeting was going to be. Great, great man. Saturday work for you? There's a place over on 5th Street. Saturday's fine. Awesome. We'll get a reservation. Hey. And Kyle, listen. We're really looking forward to clearing this up, okay? We're family. Family. I ran my cleaning cloth across the hood of the truck. See you Saturday, Ray, I said and hung up. I stood there in the driveway for a moment. The June evening was warm and the neighborhood was doing its usual quiet thing. Sprinklers somewhere. A car passing. Somebody's wind chime going. They thought they were coming to negotiate. They had no idea they were walking into a closing statement. There is a specific kind of calm that settles over a man who has already made every decision that matters, and is simply waiting for the other people in the room to catch up. That's exactly where I was on Saturday evening. The restaurant Ray picked was a place called Oasis on Lake Travis, up on the cliffs northwest of Austin, outdoor terraced seating. The kind of place with a view so good it almost makes bad company tolerable. Almost. It's the kind of spot people choose when they want the setting to do emotional heavy lifting for them. Neutral ground with a pretty backdrop. Smart choice by Ray's standards, which tells me Alice picked it. Alana and I got there first. We always do. I don't like walking into rooms where other people are already settled and comfortable. We got a table on the second terrace, ordered waters, and watched the sun starting its slow descent over Lake Travis, turning everything copper and gold. Alana was quiet on the drive over. Not the broken kind of quiet, the resolved kind. She'd spent 2 weeks processing everything. The barbecue, the calf, the 17 years before both of those. She'd come out the other side of all of it, with her jaw set in a way I recognized. That was the jaw of a woman who had made her own decisions. I reached across the table and held her hand. She squeezed back without looking up from the menu. Good enough for me. Alice and Ray arrived 11 minutes late. Ray was in a button-down that he'd clearly ironed specifically for tonight, which for Ray is the equivalent of showing up in a tuxedo. Alice had her hair done. She was holding her purse with both hands in front of her like a shield. They'd rehearsed this. I could tell immediately. They had the careful, slightly too composed energy of people who'd practiced their lines in the car on the way over. Ray went for the handshake first. Firm, 2 pumps, eye contact, the whole production. "Kyle, good to see you, man, really," he turned to Alana. Alana nodded once. The temperature at the table dropped approximately 4 degrees. Alice slid into the chair across from me and gave me the specific smile of someone who needs something from you and hates that fact with every cell in their body. "Kyle," she said. "Alice," we ordered. The waiter was cheerful and completely unaware he was serving what was essentially a sentencing hearing with a lake view. Ray got a beer. Of course he did. Alice ordered white wine. Alana ordered the salmon. I ordered the beef tenderloin because I was genuinely hungry and saw no reason to let the occasion ruin my appetite. We made approximately 4 minutes of small talk about the weather and Austin traffic before Ray cleared his throat and decided it was time. He squared his shoulders. He leaned forward slightly with his hands folded on the table. The picture of reasonable sincerity. "Look, man, we know things got heated that Sunday. Alice shouldn't have. What happened shouldn't have happened. Okay, we apologize for that." He glanced at Alice, who nodded on cue like they'd choreographed it. "But you've got to understand. She was just stressed. She saw you grab Tom's arms and she reacted. She's a mother, you know? And honestly," he paused here for effect, "cutting off the kid's tuition over a family argument? That's a bit extreme, don't you think? You're kind of punishing the whole family because your pride got hurt." Another pause. Then the real line, the one I could tell he'd been saving. "It almost feels like you set us up to look bad." He sat back. Alice was nodding along slowly, her wine glass stem rotating between her fingers. And there it was, the full performance. Start with a half apology, pivot to justification, then land on the implication that I was actually the problem. Classic. I let the silence sit for a moment. I picked up my water glass, took a slow sip, and set it back down precisely where it had been. Then I smiled, the same smile from the backyard in Round Rock. "Ray." My voice was completely level. "You didn't invite me here to apologize." He blinked. "What? No, man, we genuinely. You invited me here because your mortgage is due." I kept my eyes on him, calm as a board meeting. "You're not sorry Alice assaulted me. You're sorry that I'm the one holding the checkbook." Dead silence. The table next to us erupted in laughter about something. Somebody's birthday. Balloons. Completely different universe. Alice's wine glass stopped rotating. "Now hang on," Ray started. "I'm not finished." I said it quietly. No edge. No heat. Just a statement of fact. And Ray, to his credit, or maybe just to his instinct for self-preservation, stopped talking. I looked at Alice directly. For the first time in 17 years, I wasn't stepping back. I wasn't managing the temperature. I wasn't protecting anyone's feelings at the expense of my own. "You stood in front of 30 people, including my daughters, and you told me I wasn't a real father. You said I gave those girls a charity home because I couldn't give your sister a real family." I paused. I want to make sure we're both remembering the same moment before I continue. Alice opened her mouth. "Don't," Alana said. It was one word, quiet as a closed door. Alice closed her mouth. I continued. "You've believed for 17 years that I was nobody. That Alana carried this family. That I was furniture that came with your sister when she walked through the door." I tilted my head slightly. "I let you believe that. That's on me. I thought I was keeping the peace. What I was actually doing was financing a version of reality that was comfortable for you and invisible to me. That ends tonight." Ray shifted in his seat. The rehearsed composure was starting to crack at the edges. "The police report has been filed," I said. Ray's beer glass paused halfway to his mouth. "The district attorney's office is reviewing the case." "Assault charges, Ray. Not a family dispute. Not a heated moment. Criminal charges, because what Alice did at that barbecue was a crime, regardless of what she told herself about why she did it." I folded my hands on the table. I have 3 longtime family friends who were standing right there and have already provided written statements. I also have 2 other family members who've agreed to confirm the sequence of events. What I don't have is any interest in pretending this was a misunderstanding. Alice's face had gone the color of the tablecloth. Kyle, she started, and her voice had completely lost the practiced tone from 10 minutes ago. This was the real voice. Smaller, tighter. Kyle, look, I know I went too far. I know that. But criminal charges? We're family. You told my 9-year-old daughter her real parents didn't want her. I said it, without raising my voice. Without flinching. You said that to a child. Through your son. Then you walked across a yard and hit me in front of her. I let that land. So I need you to understand something, Alice. This isn't about family politics anymore. The copper evening light was doing beautiful things over Lake Travis. A boat moved slowly across the water far below us. Ray set his beer down. Okay, Kyle. I hear you. The charges? All right. That's serious. We understand that. But let's talk about the financial stuff. The mortgage, Tom's school, those are real consequences for our kid. He didn't do anything. Tom repeated what he heard at home, I said. Those are his consequences. And yours. But the cosign is done. I reached into the inside pocket of my jacket and placed a single folded document on the table. I slid it across to Ray. That's the formal notification from my attorney. When you hid your job loss from the lender during the modification restructure, Ray, you committed bank fraud. I exposed it to their risk department last Tuesday. My name is officially cleared from the liability, and the bank has revoked the modified terms effective immediately. Their acceleration warning follows separately. You may have already received it. If not, it'll arrive Monday. Ray unfolded it with hands that weren't entirely steady. He stared at it. I watched the color leave his face in real time, like someone had pulled a plug somewhere. The foreclosure process begins when the bank initiates it, I said. That timeline is between you and your lender. I'm no longer part of that conversation. You can't. Ray looked up. Kyle, you can't just. We have a kid in that house. You have a kid in that house, I said. Which is exactly the kind of thing a real father thinks about. Before the damage is done, not after. That one landed where it was supposed to. Alice made a sound that wasn't quite a word. Her eyes were glassy now. The wine glass had been set down, and she wasn't touching it. The monthly transfers are canceled. The tuition assistance is canceled. Every financial arrangement that existed between our households existed because I loved my wife enough to keep the peace at my own expense. That arrangement required a basic level of respect as its foundation. I looked at her steadily. You demolished that foundation in about 45 seconds at a backyard barbecue. Kyle, please. Alice's voice broke. Actually broke. The practiced composure, the performance, the entitlement, all of it gone. What was left underneath was just a woman staring at consequences she never genuinely believed would arrive. Please, I'm asking you. I'll apologize. Formally, publicly, however you want. I'll call the DA myself. Kyle, our house. And here is the part I want you to pay attention to. Because I felt something in that moment that surprised me. Not satisfaction exactly. Not the sharp, hot feeling of victory. Something quieter. The feeling of a door closing on a room you've been trapped in for a very long time and finally don't have to go back to. I looked at my sister-in-law, really looked at her, and I felt nothing that required me to be cruel. I had said everything that needed saying. Clearly, calmly, with receipts. I stood up. I buttoned my jacket. I spent 17 years protecting your feelings, I said. That's over now. From this point forward, I'm only protecting my own family. That's my wife. And my daughters, who belong in every room they walk into. I picked up my phone from the table. Good luck with the bank. And good luck paying for dinner. I extended my hand to Alana. She took it without a single moment of hesitation. She picked up her purse, stood, and rose to her full height in that way she does when she's completely certain about something. Alice reached out and touched her arm. Alana, please, just... Alana looked at her sister's hand on her arm. Then she looked at Alice. I love you, Alana said simply. But I'm done managing what you refuse to take responsibility for. She stepped away from the table. We walked through the restaurant together, past the birthday balloons, past the cheerful waiter who called out "Have a great evening," and out into the warm Austin night. The valet brought the truck around. I tipped him. We got in. I pulled out of the Oasis parking lot and headed back down the hill. Alana was quiet for about 2 minutes. Then she said, "Good luck paying for dinner." And then she started laughing. Not the polite kind. The real kind. The full-body kind that I fell in love with 20 years ago in a coffee shop on 6th Street, when she was 23 years old, and I was the broke guy at the next table, who asked if he could borrow her phone charger. I started laughing too. We laughed for about a mile before either of us said another word. Here's what happened after. The DA's office moved forward. Alice accepted a plea agreement, a formal assault charge, community service, and a restraining order that kept her at a specific distance from me and my daughters for 14 months. She signed it. No trial. No public drama. Just paperwork and consequences. The mortgage. The bank initiated foreclosure proceedings 6 weeks after that Saturday dinner at the Oasis. Ray found a smaller rental in Pflugerville, about 25 minutes east of where they'd been living. Tom switched from private school to the local public school in their new district. From what Alana heard through other family, he's doing fine. In fact, about 3 months after that barbecue, Tom sent Alexa and Keisha a handwritten note. Alana showed it to me. He apologized. Not the way his father apologized at that restaurant, performing, calculating, looking for a return on the investment of the words. He apologized the way 13-year-olds apologize when someone has actually gotten through to them. Clumsy, sincere, real. I kept that note. It reminded me that the boy wasn't the villain. He was just a kid who'd been handed the wrong script by the adults in his life, and maybe someone had finally handed him a better one. I didn't gloat. Not once. Not to other family members, not on the phone, not in a single text. That's not what this was. This was never about breaking Alice. It was about stopping her. Keisha asked me one evening, about a month later, while I was helping her with a school project at the kitchen table. She looked up from her poster board and said, completely out of nowhere, "Daddy, are we a real family?" I put down the glue stick. "Come here," I said. She climbed into my lap, 9 years old, still small enough to do that, and I held her the way I've held her since the day we brought her home. "We are the realest family I know," I told her. "You understand me?" She thought about it for a second with that serious little face she makes. "Yeah," she said. "Okay." Then she climbed back down and went straight back to her poster board. "Yeah, okay. 17 years of silence. 17 years of stepping back. 17 years of writing checks and keeping peace, and staying in the background of a family that never bothered to look close enough to see who was actually holding everything together. And in the end, all it took was one slap, one smile, and the quiet, unhurried decision of a man who finally stopped protecting the wrong people. My name is Kyle Weber. I'm 49 years old. I live in Steiner Ranch, Austin, Texas, and every single person in my house carries my name on purpose. That's what a real father does. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. I will see you on the next one.